This video is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Number 1, read the line.
You will behold the glory of my sacred wood.
That's not him.
Okay. Number 2, read the line.
You will behold the glory of my sacred wood.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Number 3.
You will behold the glory of my sacred wood.
That's him.
Every year, 1 in 5 gamers is accosted by an elf. We're tired of elves.
What's up, LoreHounds? Back at the Perfect World Entertainment booth. We're here with Aaron, the assistant product manager for Heroes of Three Kingdoms, which is based on Romance of the Three Stones. Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So it's definitely got a lot of Chinese influence, especially culture. You see here we have the player with decked out in dragon armor and got a nice sword on him too. So we don't have as many hotkeys and stuff, at least on the UI right now. Is that a signal of what can we expect? Is there fewer spells and it's more important to use them, or?
It's actually kind of up to the player. That's definitely the thing to emphasize with this game is, I can give you a demonstration, is this is very customizable. You can choose one of 18 different weapons. You can choose a region. Basically it comes down to you can swap in any weapon type whenever you want, and that changes what skills you have available. So you can choose a primary weapon like I have here. I have the saber. I can choose my secondary weapon, which I have is the staff. If I didn't like that staff anymore, I could go and swap it out for a bow. I could swap out my other weapon for a talon or like a spear or a staff. Another staff.
So is it not very class restricted, or is this just a class that can play with a whole bunch of different weapons?
So there aren't classes per se. There are weapons, and those weapons determine what skills you have available.
Okay, so your class is entirely dependent on which weapon you're wielding at any given time.
Correct.
Okay.
And so with those weapons, each weapon has its own skills that it comes with that you can potentially train. This character is obviously very high level. They've been equipped and trained in many different skills. So the number of skills that you have available is dependent, in addition to the weapon, it also corresponds in conjunction with your secondary weapon. So depending on what combination of weapons you have potentially more skills just because you have that weapon grouped together with each other. But depending on how you train your skills and how you allocate your specialization to it, it basically allows you to customize your character to fit your play style, and it doesn't force you into some kind of predetermined mold of what they think you should be.
So you see here we have like the different levels for the different spells and stuff. Do you level up these just by using those spells? Is it that kind of system, or do they level up as your character does?
So these skills in here, these are trained. You have to go to an NPC. It's sort of the traditional method of that you train.
You just pay and they give you the level or whatnot.
But there is a point when you reach a certain rank within your skill that you have to seek out basically that master that trains you. And after performing a few tasks, you can become like into the next rank of that class. So
you have to actually hunt these people down to teach you their knowledge, more or less.
So right now I am a saber legend. You start out as like a saber apprentice, and you work your way up to a master, a grandmaster. So each one of those unlocks different skills, allows you to specialize your character more. And the great thing though is you're not locked into a weapon like you are in other games. Because like you spend so much time, so much effort invested into your character that the idea that you aren't able to fulfill a particular role just because you chose poorly at the beginning, or you chose something that's not appropriate to your
you don't want to have to re-roll and spend another 30 hours.
And you don't have that. It eliminates that whole grind, that whole just counterintuitive thought. Like you don't want to lose your progress. So the fact of this is you can swap out any weapon at nearly any given time until it fits what you want. It doesn't tell you what you should be. You determine what you want to be.
What do we have for the PvE story? Is there 3 factions? Is that why it's 3 kingdoms, or?
So it does follow with the lore of the Three Kingdoms, it's ancient China. So we kind of throw players in a very pivotal, very significant part of Chinese history. This is essentially where kind of modern China as we know it now was kind of set in motion. That depending on which of those three factions won, that is kind of how things unfolded. In this, we allow players to join one of those three factions and kind of battle to even rewrite history as we know it. This is essentially where kind of modern China as we know it now was kind of set in motion. That depending on which of those three factions won, that is kind of how things unfolded. In this, we allow players to join one of those three factions and kind of battle to even rewrite history as we know it. So we have several forms of, these are all through a PvP system. We have several forms of basically conquest. You can conquer different regions of the world. As this becomes active, you would see it fill in with who owns what, who's conquered what region. And basically it allows players to kind of change history. Like, so not only do they see it, they can witness it, they can also be a part of it, and they can also alter it. So it really does allow players to not just see the story, but to be a part of it.
How big are their PvP matches and stuff?
So we have a few different PvP systems set up. So probably the focal point of all PvP is the Conquest, the territory wars. It's really hard to give a gauge on size, just simply due to each region is a different size. So depending on what faction you are and what region you're trying to conquer, some here, as you may be able to see, this is a bigger region. That's about the same as that one. That one's much smaller. That one's even smaller. So it really depends on where you're trying to attack, what its defenses are, and how many people you have, what resources. So it almost becomes more of a kind of a strategy game at this point, because you have, as you can see here, you have different statistics, different attributes for each region that you conquer that you have to maintain for that populace.